I don't know about you, but I think it's cool that the last figure you see before they come to us is Fredbird. And we've got Louis, we've got Truman,
We have Jake
we've got
Neighbors.
Jake Neighbors. He's a great mascot. Yeah,
He's not a. We do have his bobblehead though.
we do. Yeah, we love Jake Neighbors. He's like our
Yeah.
mascot. He's our official blue.
Nabes.
Nabes. Brooke,
Nabes.
Randy. Great to have you with us on the Randy Karraker Show, featuring Brooke Grimsley. And Brooke has procured one of our favorite guests for today at 25 after.
Yes. Bengie Molina, former catcher, and also as a part of the Cardinals broadcast on the Spanish side. Bengie is always fantastic. It's always so much catching up with him. Did you see what I did there? Catching up.
Oh,
Pun
yeah.
intended.
Nice. Yeah. Good. Okay.
So we'll be able to ask him anything. I mean, especially anything. The recent news about Albert Pujols wanting to be a manager, which of course he has said before, but just getting Bengie's take on that, what Yadi wants to do, if he still wants to be a manager of Major League Baseball.
Are we going to ask where he is?
I think so. I think
Okay,
we
good.
should. Yeah.
And Matthew's got a game for us today. Matthew, what game are we playing today? Yeah, Matthew, I don't know if we're going to do the bubble, but he's got to get his microphone. He didn't expect me to come to him so quickly.
We're doing a MEGAMIND minigame today.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we got a lot coming your way.
I don't think you're going to be mad about this one. I think
Okay.
I think I made it pretty fair.
I'm looking forward to it.
I
It'll
don't
be
think he
fun.
was mad last time, was he?
No, I don't know. No, I don't think
Oh,
so.
okay.
But
No.
it's a thing.
It's
Good.
a thing.
It'll good.
We have
be
seen
good.
it before. We
So-
have. You don't want to see angry Randy.
Oh,
That is
no.
something that we'll have to save for another day.
Yeah.
Angry Randy.
So, Brooke, there is a lot of traction among Cardinal fans, especially with the injury to Jordan Walker, to get Luken Baker on the Cardinals opening day roster. He has 3 home runs already this spring. He has hit 30 home runs in each of the last 2 seasons at the minor league level. The Cardinals have essentially one spot open for a bench player. And
Yeah.
that would come down to Luken Baker, Thomas Sajaci, Matt Koperniak, or there's another left-handed hitter in there. But it to me, it comes down because it's got to be a right-handed hitter.
Yes.
I think it's going to be Sajaci or Baker. I think Baker has the lead.
I think Baker has a shot here because he also hit his team leading 3rd home run of the season yesterday. He has like a 294 average. And of course, it's a small sample size, but to your point, if they need that guy off the bench, I think he's the right person for the situation right now. He's had very limited opportunities over the years, and they need that right-handed hitter, especially to pinch hit against lefties, and he does really well against them.
It's really hard to be a pinch hitter at the major league level because you're cold, and then all of a sudden they bring in a hard-throwing left-hander, your right-handed hitter. You got to face a guy that's throwing 100, and you haven't faced a pitch all day long. And that's one of the things that I think that a guy like John Jay and Descalso can really help with is the attitude that it takes to be an effective pinch hitter. Because if Baker gets the gig here, and by the way, the fourth spot, the fourth player that I was thinking of for that spot on the bench would be the loser of the center field battle, either Ciani or Scott. But Baker has experience. He's 26 years old. I think he might be, from a right-handed perspective, the best guy that the Cardinals could have on their roster on opening day.
It makes a lot of sense. And finally, you're having Luke Baker get an opportunity in the bigs.
Yeah.
We were talking about this, I believe, like a few weeks ago or a week or two ago at this point about Luken Baker, how he has had limited opportunities because he's not really seen as a guy that can really elevate himself at the bigs. But maybe this is the right situation for him finally.
Yeah, I think so, because he is viewed by many as a 4A player, better than a AAA player, but not quite a major league player. A lot of guys go on and have decent major league careers. The Cardinals always viewed Luke Voit as that guy before they traded him to the Yankees, and he wound up becoming a pretty good player. And because of the fact that the Cardinals have a need for that guy right now, because the way that I've got it pegged at the moment, so my starting 9 is Nootbaar, Ciani or Scott, and Walker. My infield is Arenado, Wynn, Donovan, Contreras, and then one of the catchers. Okay. So one of the catchers is going to be on your bench. Jose Fermin has to be on your bench because he's a backup shortstop. And then Alec Burleson is an odd man out. I've got Gorman DHing. So I've got Alec Burleson starting the year on my bench as well. So you've got Baker, you've got Koperniak, you've got Sajaci, and either Scott or Ciani. And Baker just seems to make more sense. Another reason that I think he makes sense is because if Victor Scott II loses the battle to play center field, then he's got to be down in the minors as far as I'm concerned. He's got to play every day.
He does. He has to play every single day. We should give an update too on Jordan Walker because that also plays into this when we're talking about just those opportunities that are open. The update yesterday was good, and we were just reacting to that of worst case scenario. Hopefully this still won't be anything that lingers for Jordan Walker, but that MRI revealed no structural damage for Jordan Walker. They're going to let him rest for a week just because of the inflammation. That dang sprinkler. I was so scared. I was like, this is so like what like this is of course this would happen where we always are like you're pretty much putting in pin that Jordan Walker now is going to be your right fielder. That's the opportunity that was open for him. And this is a huge season for him, obviously, in the Cardinals. And then a sprinkler almost just derailed everything.
What is happening in our world in which a Major League Baseball player on a field that he is playing on, ostensibly a Major League field, is able to injure a knee, and it could have been a serious injury, by stepping on a sprinkler head? That just makes no sense at all to me. If I'm on a golf course and I step on a sprinkler head, fine. It's only Randy Karraker, right? It's no big deal.
I mean, it's still a setback, Randy. It keeps you away from your biking, your golfing.
That's true. But it doesn't really matter to anybody. It does matter to people if Jordan Walker can't play.
Yeah, that's a huge deal. You think that they would do something about that, or maybe notice it before the game starts. But I think that we should note that. But this is the right situation for Luken Baker. And I think that this is the chance for him finally to have that opportunity to rake. Billy Bays says, yes, let Baker rake. They should have given him more at bats last September. Remember that last September where we were kind of waiting for some of those? You knew that they weren't going to make the playoffs. We knew that there was no postseason baseball for the Cardinals. And I think that a lot of people were waiting for those younger guys to get an opportunity because why not?
Yeah. And I think from their perspective, they wanted to do what they perceived as right by Paul Goldschmidt, who did get hot in the last month of the season.
Yeah.
They wanted to be respectful of the veteran. But I also understand the perspective of somebody who sees players' numbers like he put up, like Luken Baker did, and then you say, okay, well, why isn't he getting an opportunity? And I think that's fair, but hopefully he'll get that opportunity this year. I think we also need to note, Brooke, that the Cardinals, they view him kind of in that 4A class.
They do.
Too. Now, whether or not they're right, we don't know. But that's the way they look at him. And that's probably the biggest reason that he didn't get as much of an opportunity last September.
So in his limited opportunities in majors, only 54 games and 148 plate appearances over the last 2 seasons at the bigs. And he was crushing the ball in the minors, but there just was no opportunity for him. So you're fine with him coming off the bench, being a pinch hitter, especially against lefty relievers, and just being that right-handed power bat too against lefty starters as a DH?
Yeah. And when Contreras needs that occasional day off, I would like to see him at first base.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many at-bats you get him, but yeah, give him an opportunity. And then if he does something off the bench and an Arenado trade would pop up, then all of a sudden you can move Gorman over to third, and you can move some people around so that he could wind up as your designated hitter. Because right now, I think the Cardinals' best lineup has Gorman as the DH.
Yeah, I think so. I think that that's the situation because Arenado is still here.
Yeah.
You still have to be able to give Arenado time, Gorman time. The DH position is a little clogged right now, if you think about it, of giving the right opportunity for a lot of people. Or is it better? I guess the other way to look at it is that they have so much flexibility with the roster that you have so many options that you can mix and match depending on the pitcher.
I say this with all due respect. I don't think it's a good idea to give Ali Marmol a lot of flexibility. I think it'd be better if he has a left fielder and a center fielder and a right fielder and a third baseman and a shortstop and a second baseman. I don't want people moving around.
Because we saw that last year.
Yeah, and this is not the Dodgers.
Can I ask for a qualifier on your statement earlier about the Cardinals' best lineup?
Yes.
Are you saying that that's the best ideal lineup? Or are you saying that if spring training was tomorrow, that's their best lineup? Because I think there's a difference. I think there's a difference between those two answers right now.
That group of players is the best group of players that the Cardinals can put out there.
I agree, but are you confident that right now that Nolan Gorman is a starting caliber DH right now with some of the issues he's had at the plate?
Well, no,
that's my question.
But he's a guy that you have to find out about. You have to give him 500 at-bats.
Yeah.
So
you do.
Okay.
You've got a year. See, the thing that we have to get through our thick skulls is that this is not a year that the Cardinals are trying to win. This is, and I know they've said, oh no, it's a transition now. It's not a reboot or a reset. Yes, it is, because half of these guys are not going to, they're going to wash out and not be major leaguers. That's just the statistic. If the Cardinals bat 50% on these kids working out, that'll be a really good percentage relative to the rest of Major League Baseball.
I 100% agree with everything you just said, but me and Brendan Schaefer were talking about this on Cards Hub 365 right now, which is giving Gorman at DH at bats right now when he's not hitting well stops you from giving a chance for a guy like Alec Burleson to be on the opening day starting lineup, because
upside. Burleson is never going to hit 40 home runs,
and that's, I guess, part of that. That's where the equation comes in. Even though he's a younger player who you want to see give him a chance, runway, he doesn't have the potential ceiling of a Nolan Gorman. So bottom line, you have to push potential to the front.
And again, I might not love this, but the fact of the matter is, this is a sport of home runs right now.
It is.
And Nolan Gorman did hit 27 a couple of years ago and could run into 40 because of the way the ball comes off of his bat.
You don't have left-handed power bats just available anywhere. That's why this is such a big deal and why you can't give up on Nolan Gorman, because that's such a hot commodity to have in Major League Baseball right now. Power bat in general, but especially a left-handed power bat, that's huge in Major League Baseball. That's why they haven't given up on Nolan Gorman just yet. And they shouldn't, because he's still young. Is he 24, 25 years old, if that?
Yeah, I think he's 24. And if Mo would send out a group text to all the other GMs today, to all 29 other GMs, and say, hey, Gorman is available, he would get texts back from 20, 22, 23 of the other general managers saying, yeah, I'll take a shot at that left-handed bat.
Exactly. And I want to go back to what you were just saying there about lineup flexibility, because I think that's another thing that we're looking at going into the season, is that you have lineup flexibility. But with what you were saying, you don't think that this is a great thing for Oli Marmol, because we have seen in the past where that flexibility doesn't really give those players stability, where they know this is my job every single day. I know what to prepare for, and it kind of causes a little bit of confusion.
And I think it causes confusion not only among the players, but among the manager.
Right? That is a lot. Yeah. And there's not a defined role.
Right. So this is an organization. Let me put it in perspective. This is an organization, Brooke, that would not move Jordan Walker off of third base in Double-A because they were concerned about his offense being affected by changing positions. Mm-hmm. So if you're changing guys' positions every single day, and you thought that it was going to affect Jordan Walker's offense, well, why wouldn't you think that it'd affect every other young player's offense?
And not every single player is Tommy Edman, because Tommy Edman was able to handle that well. He's a true utility player.
And he's really smart.
And, and nothing against any of the other guys, but it's just that Tommy Edman is not, I think, the example that the Cardinals should be looking at of all these players should be able to adjust on the fly, not have a role every single day. Maybe one day you're the DH, you come into the clubhouse, you don't know if you're going to be the DH, or maybe you're going to be in the outfield. I think that not everybody's Tommy Edman where they can adjust to that on the fly, and having those defined roles. When we were talking to Brian Jordan yesterday about what worked for the Braves, they committed to certain guys and they committed to those certain roles.
Right. And baseball players are creatures of habit. They're better in that situation. Bubs checks in on our YouTube chat. Bub says, just heard Ken Rosenthal talk about this soft reset the Cardinals are doing and how this kind of thing hardly ever works. So let's start with this. And I don't blame Ken Rosenthal, but he's down on the Cardinals. I don't think he likes.
He's very down on the Cardinals lately.
I don't think he likes Mo, and it's so.
Hey, foul territory is out for the Cardinals right now.
Yeah, so which is fine. That's fine, and that's not wrong. The soft reset. I mean, this is what teams like the Royals did for 30 years, and the Pirates did for 30 years, and the White Sox are trying to accomplish and have tried to accomplish over the last decade or so. The Rangers did it forever. Ultimately, what you have to do is you have to make it work with the young guys. And then and this was the Cardinal way before prices just got outrageous for baseball players. But you get a nice young core, and then you supplement the young players with veteran guys. And the Cardinals for years were able to do that because a guy like McGuire would come here for less money. A guy like Edmonds would come here for less money. A guy like Roland would come here. A guy like Holiday would come here for less money. And then they also had the magic of Dave Duncan, who was unbelievable, right?
Oh,
and making pitchers way better than they were anywhere else. So Ken Rosenthal isn't wrong, but what the hell else are the Cardinals going to do?
They can't do a complete teardown.
They don't need to. Their players are too good for that.
Yeah,
but
they
also
still have young talent.
Yeah, and they aren't going to go sign Soto to be the centerpiece because they aren't going to spend $765 million on a player.
Who's a recent example of a complete teardown? The Athletics? I'm trying to think about not spending money, not investing in their players, because that's what I'm imagining of a complete teardown. And then they move. And so I don't think you want that to happen.
And it's
either.
Interesting. You bring up an interesting thing because people perceive that the Astros tore things down completely. And they did, but how did they win? They went out and signed like a half dozen free agents. When they won in 2017, they had McCann behind the plate. They went out and got the right fielder from the A's. I forgot his name, but Altuve was drafted by Ed Wade. Really, the only people from the teardown that were productive for them were Bregman at third base and Correa. Otherwise, the rest of that team wasn't a product of tearing down and then building up through the system.
Ian Short says they want to stay competitive without doing the work to get back there the right way. So I'm curious, Ian, if you could just kind of weigh on what you mean the right way. What is the right way to do a reset, I guess? What is an example of a really good reset?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because for me, you need to develop good young players. Bubs comes back and says they should have traded more older pieces for more young talent if they wanted to truly retool, in my opinion. And again, I don't think that's, and we saw it last year with people selling tickets for free. I don't think Cardinal Nation has the appetite to tear down for 5 or 6 years.
Wouldn't that also be a disservice to the fans to do a complete teardown? And I know that there's people out there who say, well, their payroll's down. We don't have like a superstar necessarily on this team anymore. So you could put it in that full reset teardown category. But I feel like it would be a disservice to the fans to just completely say, well, we're just going to really just scrap all of this.
We should make another point here.
And what does that say to the players that they've invested in who are already here currently right now?
That's going to be my point. What older player did they not want to trade?
They tried.
Right. Gray said he wanted to be here. He has no trade. Contreras said he wanted to be here. They couldn't find a taker for Arenado. I don't know what they did with Miles Michaelis, but we know he's unmovable because of the contract. So I wonder if maybe the Cardinals would have liked to have gone down to the studs, but they couldn't because the veteran players wouldn't let them.
Speaking of giving those players some time, Keith Adams said Gorman has had over 1,000 at bats. Randy, not only can't he, it disappeared on me.
Can't hit the curve. He can't hit anything.
Because I'm on the YouTube. Sorry, Rocky.
I will grant you that he struck out 37% of the time he stepped to the plate last year. But again, I would argue, look at Kyle Schwarber after 1,000 at bats. There are several other guys.
The game has, to your point, the game has changed.
The game has changed a lot.
I also want to throw out, he actually improved a little bit. And I put this in the chat there too. He actually improved a little bit in some parts of the slash line, batting average, slug. There's a couple. Essentially batting average and slug and on base percentage. He actually improved against breaking pitches last year by about 20 or 30 points. He actually dropped by about 80 points against fastballs last year in batting average. He dropped in slugging percentage against fastballs 140 points from 567 to a 418 against fastballs last year. Yes, he's not elite against breaking pitches or off-speed pitches in any way, shape, or form. But what's completely dropped his numbers out of the bottom last year was his fastball numbers, not his breaking pitch numbers, where I think it just breaks kind of convention with what you think with a guy like that when he struggles.
Yeah, and I do think that around baseball, he is not perceived as an untalented player. He's got ability. We saw the ability 2 years ago, and that's what the Cardinals are hoping will step to the fore, is that ability. And it might be where he strikes out 29-30% of the time and hits 35 home runs and hits 210. But there is a place for that in baseball now.
It is. There is a place for that. It's just the way that things go. Ian Short says, I would rather they tear down than give the fans the impression that the team can still compete when they don't come anywhere close. I want to follow this up with what Space just put in the chat too, because Space says, in many ways, the Cardinals are doing a reset in the right way. The heavy investment in their farm. The surprising part was not moving Helsley and Fetty for prospects. I'm in that camp too, where I don't see why you don't try to move Eric Fetty at this point. Maybe even try to package him with Steven Matz so that you can give runway. I feel like we need a little noise, like a little ding for runway every time that we say it. So you could give runway to those younger pitchers like McGreevy, a Liberatore even, Quinn Matthews when he's ready after getting some more starts in the minors. I'm with him on that. I was surprised that they didn't try to move Helsley when his value was at the highest.
And it's hard to reset when you have a young group of position players and then you have a starting rotation with guys that are 34, 35, 36, right? Michaelis, 36, going to be obviously if you're 36, you're going to be 37.
Eventually. Well, you hope, knock on wood.
Yeah, really. Ooh. But Michaelis, Gray, Matz is 32 now, and Fetty. So you're looking, so 32, 34, 36. That is not a reset. And that's I do think that McGreevy and or Liberatore and at some point Matthews have to find their way into the rotation if this is going to be a legitimate transition from young people to more veteran people.
I would love to know if they actually did kick the tires a little bit on Eric Fetty on trying to move him, because that was the whole reason they brought him in. His contract's super attractive to be able to move. Maybe they're just holding their chips to the trade deadline, but that's such a dicey thing to do because so many things can happen right before the trade deadline that could tank that person's value. No doubt.
And even at $7.5 million, if he's hurt, he's not going to do anybody any good, right?
Yeah. Or if he's just stinking it up out there on the mound, then yeah.
Yeah. Bubs, again, I definitely see your point, Randy and Brooke, but to a degree, the optics of not making moves, whether or not it was in their control, makes the organization appear more apathetic to the fan base. Well, with all due respect, I think the fan base needs to pay more attention then, because you've got a young left fielder that you haven't seen a lot of. You've got two young center fielders that you don't know about. You've got a young right fielder that you don't know about. You've got a young shortstop who was a rookie last year, playing his first full season at the major league level. You have a second baseman who's played one full season. He's been hurt 2 others. You have a first baseman that you couldn't get rid of. You have 2 catchers that were first-year players last year. The way I'm looking at it, you have a lot of young players, and it is a reset. Now, you don't want to have Arenado. Contreras is what he is. So I don't – how you can say that this isn't a reset. It's not like you have a bunch of 32-year-old players playing and you're saying we hope they get better. It's players that don't have much experience at the major league level.
The biggest part is just the starting rotation that we're talking about. That's where you're not having enough runway possibly. And they probably should try to move a Steven Matz and Eric Fetty because I feel like those guys, you know exactly who they are, so that we could see some of those young arms get some starts in the starting rotation in the bigs.
And it's a long season. And my hope would be that
they're doing that because of injuries.
Right. But yeah, they want to preserve their depth. But the other, I mean, Michael McGreevy has nothing to prove in the Cardinal bullpen or at the minor league level. He should be in the rotation. Palante, with what he did last year, should be in the rotation. We're going to be at a point at the end of April where we're going to say, and the Cardinals should say, there's nothing more that Quinn Matthews can do at the minor league level. Liberatore has not allowed a hit to 22 hitters this spring. At some point, you got to say, you know what? We gave up a pretty darn good player in Randy Arozarena for him to be a starting pitcher. Let's give him an opportunity. And I would reach a point if the young pitchers are pitching well enough. The only 2 guys I don't even need to see them, but I think they hold value in the rotation are Gray because of his leadership and preparation, and Michaelis because he'll give you innings and you can abuse him.
Exactly. And you don't want to do that to one of the young pitchers. No. You don't want to do that.
And Matz, if you do it too, he's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Right. We love Steven Matz, but we know he's going to get hurt. And then Fetty, trade him. $7.5 million. It's a bargain for somebody.
I think so. Timothy says, why didn't our offseason shift once we found out that Big Willie and Sonny were staying and Arenado turned down the Houston deal? So when we're talking about shifting that offseason mentality from youth movement to these guys are obviously still sticking around, I think that's why they're calling it a transition year, that these guys are helping them in this transition to a more full youth movement.
The reason the Cardinals are got into the position that they got into is because they signed mediocre players like Johnny Peralta and Dexter Fowler and Mike Leake and Miles Michaelis, and they loaded themselves up with players that were mediocre. And it's hard to win a World Series with a bunch of mediocre guys. What you need to have is great all-star quality players. The Cardinals have a much better chance of getting an all-star quality player out of this group than had they gone out and brought back Matt Carpenter or signed Brendan Rodgers or brought back Tommy Pham or Randall Grichuk. They have a much better chance of getting better now than they would have had they brought back a bunch of 32-year-old guys.
Exactly. And we'll continue this conversation because you guys are doing a great job of interacting with us in the chat. But we do have Bengie Molina who's ready to go. Do want to mention, too, that we'll also talk about this a little bit later in the show. The Blues winning versus the Kings last night, 3-2 shootout. Thomas with an 11-point streak.
Tommy.
And then Mizzou lost to Oklahoma. I'm sure that we'll have to dive into that double-digit loss, too. Right. But for now, we're going to go talk to our friend, Bengie Molina, former Major League Baseball catcher. He's part of the Cardinals broadcast, Spanish side. And there is Bengie right now. Bengie, how are you doing this morning?
Good. Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you, brother.
We can hear you. Yeah.
No, I'm good. I'm doing good. I'm getting obviously pretty excited for the season. There's a lot of here we go and a lot of let's see what happened with the Cardinals. With the
All right, Bengie, let's start with this. What's that hoodie? What Tigers are on that? Is that Mizzou?
Yeah.
Did you know that I have my cousin is the catcher for Mizzou?
Oh.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yadi Hernandez is our cousin.
And how good? How obviously if it's from your bloodlines, got to be pretty good, right?
He is pretty good. He's really good. I think last year he was having a good year offensively, but he got tired at the end and low down. That's why he probably didn't get drafted. But I think and I hope that he gets drafted coming up this year. He's a senior.
That's awesome. Is there anybody in the family when they say, okay, I'm going to do the whole family tradition of playing baseball, anybody who doesn't pursue being a catcher?
Let me tell you, Brooke, I think if you are not a catcher in our family, you're not invited to Christmas parties. So you better be a catcher. Hey, I have another cousin that's playing in, oh my goodness, I can think of it. Stockton, Culver Stockton. He's a catcher too, Brian. So he's a catcher. You know, Yadi's son, my nephew, is coming up.
Yeah.
So I have a couple of cousins that are catcher. I'm telling you, if you're not a catcher, you cross your fingers because you're not invited to our home.
Hey, Bengie, you heard what I said right before you came on about, I think the Cardinals have a better chance of succeeding with young players who have a chance to get better than players that are 30, 31, 32 who have maxed out and they're mediocre, maxed out guys. Do you agree with that?
I think it's some truth with that. I really do believe that a young guy, the only down that the young guy might have is that you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know, obviously, if we're talking to a star or you don't know if we're talking to a guy who's going to struggle, right? We've seen a couple of them struggle. We've seen Walker struggle early in his career. We've seen Gorman struggle big time in his career, young career, I should say. But yeah, this year there's exciting out there because you hope and you pray that these young guys can step up and these young guys can carry the team, the Cardinals team and make him great again, make him good again. And that's what we're hoping for. They have a lot of talent, guys. They have a lot of talent. The problem is that once you're between the lines and those lights go on, the talent goes out the window. It's performing what counts. And if they cannot perform to the highest level, what do? Do you send them down? Do you keep them struggling up in the big leagues? You know what I'm saying? So that's what's going to be the challenge for them, for the whole organization to figure it out, what these guys are able to do. And we as fans, we just got to support and keep going out there and supporting these kids and see if they make it a very, very fun year for us.
Hey, Bengie, on your world championship team with the Angels in 2002, almost everybody came through the system and was a product of the Angels. Why were you guys able to get better and reach that point that you became world champions?
I'm going to tell you what, I really, really do believe that we did the job when it was needed, right? Like the guys were young, but let me tell you, I did not know these guys were young at all. They were playing as veterans. We had a lot of guys that went to winter ball. That's a really tough league. So maybe that helped them come to the big leagues and perform. But they did. They did. We have a lot of young guys out there, a lot of rookies that came into the team, and we weren't even worried about these kids. They performed, and I tell you what, they took us to the promised land. Those young guys took us to win the World Series for sure.
Tell me about the first time you caught K-Rod. You brought him up in September, right? Francisco Rodriguez. Tell me about the first time you caught him.
Oh my gosh, it was electric. It was unreal. I never seen a kid with a slider this good. And I mean, obviously I was young too, but man, that slider. And then he had a curveball too. People think it's only slider. So when the ball is going away from the hitter or down in the zone into the home plate, it's very difficult to recognize. And this guy was throwing 99 miles an hour, and the ball was cutting like Mariano. You know, Mariano had a natural cutter. So this guy was eating up lefties, and righties had no chance. So I think he should be a Hall of Famer. I think he's third on the save list. And that's how good he was. I really, really was very, very impressed with him.
Bengie, I wanted to ask you about Wilson Contreras and his transition over to first base. What was your reaction to that news that he's not going to be catching anymore? He's just going to be the Cardinals' first baseman.
I was more worried about how Willie would take it. You know, I don't think it's a horrible decision. I don't believe any of that. I think it's a good decision in health wise. We saw Joe Mauer move to first. We've seen Buster Posey do the same. We've seen many catchers go to first. It's just because they're so good with the bat that you can keep him healthy out there and they can help the team. So Wilson, you got to give him credit, man. This guy wants to win with the Cardinals. He wants to win. He has the heart. He wants to do whatever it takes to win. And in this case for him is moving from the catcher position to first base. Now we'll see, obviously, during the season how that works with him, because we are used to having Paul Goldschmidt and all that. But he's very happy for the move, and he's gonna be fine. I really do believe so. He's gonna help us more with the bat, and also because he'll be healthy.
Yeah, he really has shown that he is a true leader for his team by wanting to step up in any way possible. Now, looking at the catchers that you do have behind the plate, what have you seen from Pages and Herrera during their progression over the years?
Let me tell you, the catchers, in the organization, the catchers and the Cardinals are loaded in the minor leagues. They got Crooks, MVP of the Texas League. They have Bernal coming up. I mean, they are loaded with good catching prospects. These two, Ivan and Pages, they're so smart. They talk to the pitchers. They know what they have to do. They know where they need to be behind the plate for each pitcher. They are so smart, and they work really good together. That's really hard these days because everybody's pulling for each other. Everybody's pulling for their own position and job. But these two, man, you're always seeing them all hugging each other, talking about baseball. How are we going to pitch to this guy? They're very smart. I'm very good with those two guys.
Hey, everybody, and we love the fact that you're talking to them, but every Cardinal fan wants to see Yadi help these guys out. Where's Yadi, and would he be willing to come in and just for a week and hang with our catchers?
He's getting close to that position. This guy, you know, he's always been busy ever since he retired. 2 days later, he's managing in Venezuela, and then he took off managing, doing great job wherever he goes. So those days are coming. I mean, obviously, he's probably won a couple of years. This will be his third year away from the baseball professionally over here in the United States. So I think I really do believe he's coming. You know, he wants to help out the kids and all that. He's with my nephew in Texas. He's playing high school baseball. He's a junior. Obviously, he's a catcher, and he's doing really good out there. So I think Yadi worries a lot about Yanu because he wants him to be prepared. He wants to go to the Longhorn University, to the Texas Longhorns. So he's right there, right next to the university. Maybe after the high school season, maybe Yanu is ready to go and do university. So I understand his point. He wants to be with his family right now. And you saw what Matt Holliday did. You know, he was coming to a bench coach, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, you know what? My kids need me. They're in high school, and I have to be there for them. So maybe those kids, like Holiday and Yadi, will be back soon into a baseball.
And he still wants to be a manager at the major league level one day, right?
Yes, I mean that's why he's been doing the Dominican, the Puerto Rican. He's gonna manage the Puerto Rican team in the baseball classic coming up. And he's been he did Venezuela. He went to Dominican last year. He did Puerto Rico. He won championship. So I really do believe he wants to manage. We'll see where he ends up and what decision he makes, or when does he make the decision to come back and try to manage somewhere.
Hey, Bengie, I want to get your take on the young Cardinal pitchers, and you've had a lot of opportunity to see Liberatore throw. Not as much for McGreevy, but then you see a guy like Graceffo with his curveball so far in camp. Has anybody's stuff really stuck out to you?
Staff-wise, I'm going to tell you what, Matthews is sick. Hentz is sick. Roby, it's unreal the way when you watch him live. The guys that you just mentioned are unbelievable. That's taking out Zach Thompson. I think he's hurt, but he is sick too. Graceffo, like you said, McGreevy and all those guys, they're ready, man. They're knocking on the door. They're like, hey, let me in and I'm going to stay. Obviously, we have some spots filled right now, but they have to wait their opportunity like everybody else did or have done. So, but talent-wise, let me tell you, man, these guys are unreal. And anytime, I'm gonna say this, once that door is open, I don't think those guys are gonna let go, man. They have the heart. They show you the heart they have for pitching, and they're bulldogs out there. So I really do believe once that door is open, these guys are staying in. So open up that living room because the sofa will be packed up pretty soon.
I know that a lot of people look at the pitchers with this new ABS system and how that's affecting things, but how much does that affect the catchers too? And what do you think about the possibility of robot umps one day?
You know what? I'm an old school, Brooke. I old school guys don't go with that. This is just my opinion, right? Don't get it. I'm not saying anything from anybody's mouth, but my opinion, I do not like it. I think the element of the umpire should stay there. The heart, whatever. They work hard too. The umpires really work hard. I don't know if people understand this, but the umpire also has spring training. They also train for the season. They're always constantly doing it. The ABA, right? The
ABS system, yeah.
ABS.
Oh,
I don't think it's. I mean, it's only a couple tests, like a couple in a game, and if you miss one or two, you're gonna save it for late. I don't like that stuff. I think the ump is the one who decide, what's coming or what the final decision is. I'm like Terry Francona, he's like, I'm not gonna use it because we're not gonna use it during the season. So who knows what's gonna happen with that.
Hey, Bengie, I just thought of something, just literally right now. How about rather than having 2 challenges a game, you get 10 games a year and you get to pick out the umpire where you get to use the ABS. I know that as a catcher, there's some guys, some umpires that you want to be able to challenge. So you got 152 games where you can't, but 10 games where you say, okay, I'm using the ABS in this game.
Hey, let me tell you, John, that's not a bad idea. That's a good idea because I know a couple of the umpires. I could have won the argument, So, but he doesn't. I don't know. He doesn't make it fair. I'm an old school, like I told you guys. I'm an old school guy. Obviously, I didn't like when the replay wasn't there when Kansas City and the Cardinals play at first and things like that. But I'm old school. Anything that has been changed in baseball, I'm not such a big fan of it. So.
We have a question from somebody on the YouTube chat, Jody. He says, question for Bengie. What was the biggest key for you and Yadi's baseball development as kids growing up?
And Jose too.
And Jose.
Exactly.
I think our biggest deal was our parents. Our parents supporting us, our parents being at practice, our parents taking us to the field, taking us to the games. My dad used to play. So my dad, for whoever doesn't know out there, my dad is in the Hall of Fame, Amateur Hall of Fame in Puerto Rico for his playing days in amateur league, and also for Little League Hall of Fame for helping kids. So my dad had a lot of knowledge, and he used it on us. Being supportive, being positive was a really big key. We had uncles that play all around, so they were coaches too. Our whole family was into baseball. Also, I think our success was because we were no doctors. We didn't go to school. We were no lawyers, so we were only baseball players or bust. So I think that made it very easy for us to go follow one sport. I think the kids should play all sports these days just for development. But also when I was growing up, I think we only had baseball like a way out. We wanted to help our families. Our motivation was our family, actually. It wasn't money, it wasn't houses. So all those things together, you put it in the bubble, and before you know it, you have three Molina brothers.
And I want to mention too that on Amazon there is a book about your family story that you're mentioning there, your father and how much he helped you, and I know that your mother, big part of that as well. But you also have a kids book, don't you?
Yes, a coloring book. I always wanted to have. I know how to draw and stuff, so I always wanted to have my book, coloring book for kids, and as a dream, and using my drawings. So these guys, coloring book.com, Wayne and Ken, they helped me out with and they say, why don't you make the baseball players, why don't you make the Molina brothers baseball, coloring book? And I'm like, wow, that's a great idea. So we went through real pictures that I took or my mom took, and we convert them into a nice little coloring book. It has a poster in it. Also, it has a scan, the barcode thing that you can do. I'm talking about the picture. I'm talking about Puerto Rico. I'm talking about the book, welcoming you and things like that. And also in Spanish and English. So I think it's a collectible more than a coloring book. A lot of kids don't want to touch it. But I seen both of them. I seen a lot of kids drawing on it and coloring it. It's very, very cool.
Awesome.
Hey, Bengie, I wanted to ask you about Ivan Herrera, because he went to Driveline during the offseason to improve his throwing. And I think we as fans that never played the position, we say, oh, he just can't throw. What can a catcher do? What do you think a guy like Herrera does to improve his catching from behind home plate? Or his throwing, I'm sorry, his throwing arm?
Well, there's ways that you can do, obviously, strength training, your whole arm. I can tell you this, the forearm, the arm, the shoulder, all those things are very important to get better and get stronger arms. A lot of times it's what you have, right? A lot of times it's what you have, and that's it. You can't go any further than that. And if this is the case for Ivan, also, guys, you have to understand that the pitcher have to give a chance to the catcher. Everybody's like, oh, the numbers have gone down. Let me tell you, Contreras had a cannon. Pajes, cannon. And then you go Contreras brother, cannon. And then you keep going through the league. These guys can throw, but they cannot get people out at second, not necessarily because they're bad throwers. It's because a lot of times the pitcher doesn't give them any chance to throw them out. And that has to be brought up, because I would hate for everybody to jump on Ivan and say, oh, yeah, he can throw. He can throw. Yeah, but if you give him the right time on the pitcher, I bet you anything those numbers will go up. So pitcher and catcher works together.
Bengie, it's great to see your face. Are you and Polo doing opening day?
Yes. All 81 home games. We still on 81 home games. Hopefully we can do some away games this year or next year. Who knows? But for now, we'll do the home games, all 81. So it'll be super excited to be back on the field, be back on Busch. I hope the fans jump on the wagon, because I don't want to see anybody jumping on the wagon halfway through when we're 10 games up, or something like that. Hey, you have to stay positive when you have young guys. You have to stay positive. You don't know where it's going to be. Talent-wise, no question. Talent-wise, all those guys can really play the game. It's when those lights come on and though you're 9 against 9 and when it really counts, that's when we're going to find out who's going to stay and who's going to go.
All right. We're looking forward to seeing you, and we want to have you be a regular on the show. Is that all right with you?
Hey, I don't have any trouble. Brooke knows that I'm here every time. I have raised my hand every time she asks. I would say yes. So whenever you guys need a pinch hitter, a pinch runner, no pinch runner. A pinch hitter.
Thank you so much, Bengie. We always appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
See you, Bengie.
Bye.
Bengie Molina, Cardinal Spanish language broadcaster with Polo Asensio. And like you said, they do all 81
awesome.
home games. He's great.
Yeah, he is so nice. I have to say, all the Molina brothers definitely have they have their own different personalities, as we've all seen and showcased. And I remember the first time that I got to meet Bengie in the clubhouse, I was so intimidated because it's Yadi's brother. And then Bengie himself is such an accomplished catcher. And he is so nice. What you're seeing right now,
That's him.
That's just him all the time. Positive energy, positive guy, always upbeat.
Yeah.
I've never seen him negative about anything in any way.
No, but I do agree with him also about the young players. You have to, I mean, what's the point of being negative? If you're negative, then it's kind of like a fait accompli, right? You say, okay, well, it turned out the way it was supposed to. But if you're positive, you say, man, I was on that guy's bandwagon when he got started.
Exactly. And he said, don't jump on that bandwagon late.
No, some of us.
Some of us, yeah, some of us will. I think it's all wait and see. I think that's fair. But I am excited to see what these young players are able to do. And he's right, too, about Wilson Contreras. For him to be able to just take that on says a lot about Wilson. And we've said that, but he's just such a great leader. And I think the Cardinals are lucky to have him.
Matthew?
I'm just still focusing on the fact that there's a Molina who's MIZ. I mean, the fact that we turned it on in he's wearing a Missouri Tigers, and we find out he's all in on Yadi Hernandez, and I tweeted it out too. Just the subtle of, if you're a Molina, you play catcher. Or else.
Yeah, right.
Or else. It's in their blood.
And then another cousin at Culver Stockton. That's really
exactly.
cool.
That's insane.
So cool.
And just like the stories about his family too, the credit he gives to his parents, the way, just the smile on his face. He's like, we're not doctors. We had one way, and all three of us figured it out. And credit to his dad for being a amateur Hall of Famer and a Little League Hall of Fame coach. That's such an incredible story.
And they'll tell you their mom is a huge part of that too.
No,
I mean, the mom was a huge part
also,
of that.
Here's the thing. You can hit a major league curveball and you can draw. It's just not fair sometimes. Sometimes people just get a little bit too much. I'm a little bit angry that he can hit a curveball, and for major league pitching, maybe the hardest single thing to do in sports. And apparently also the hand-eye coordination just makes him he's a beautiful calligrapher and drawer as well. Damn you, Bengie, you talented man.
He's got things going. So in 2010, he started the year with the Giants, and Buster Posey obviously emerged, and he got traded to the Rangers. So he's got a World Series ring from the Giants and an American League Championship Series ring from the Rangers from 2010.
We should post in the link too. I know that you can in the discussion on YouTube or something like that when we have the video later, the link to that book about his family and that children's book. Great because idea. Both of them are, I need to get one for my nursery.
Yeah.
I have to ask Bengie about that. Of course, I pay for it, but I want him to sign it. So,
all right. You know what? Brian Jordan also does children's books.
I know. So I just need to do a little collection. Yeah. We're doing cowboy theme in the nursery. That's what we decided to do. We're doing a little
Not
cowboy.
Dallas.
No. And I had to explain to my husband too that there's a difference between a Western cowboy and a Southern cowboy.
Oh, really?
Because there's a lot of things where you look up cowboy decorations and they have like a cactus in the background. There's a difference between the two.
There's Southern cowboys?
Yes.
That's a Western thing. I'm sorry. You can't just claim cowboys in the South. No, come on.
It's a different style. Yeah, it's a different style. Like there's different types of cowboys.
Would Wade'll be a Southern cowboy?
Yes.
And then you've got the old buckaroos out in El Paso. That's a different cowboy.
It's different versions of cowboys.
Like
and they dress different.
But here's my thing. Now, okay, fine. I'll give you the rancher aspect. But is there a different than like a Colorado, Wyoming rancher and a Nashville rancher, or is that are we just saying there's a difference between a rancher and a cowboy?
Obviously, there would be the same type of like if you're dealing with cows and horses and stuff like that's the same. It's just that usually there's
a little weird
that
you're trying to separate cowboy from the American West, where it's the most
in the South to.
Okay,
That's what
fine.
I'm saying is
All
that
right.
there's a different style, there's a different look. If you looked up at like the Houston, a lot of people go to the Houston rodeo, different style of how people dress compared to how people dress in the South. There's a cultural thing.
Can you explain this to me really quick? What the biggest differences are?
Okay,
I'm fascinated
I
right
think
now.
I can help you with this. So
a lot of rhinestone cowboys in Nashville too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it seems to me that like the rancher cowboy probably has like gray stubble, right?
I think you're just talking about older
you know,
people.
and the mustache. He's
Are you thinking
like,
of Yellowstone?
I think you're just
Are you
thinking
doing,
of
like,
Yellowstone.
right
yeah,
now?
there you go. And the southern cowboy, maybe not as I was thinking more ruggedly handsome. I think of Wayno wearing his cowboy hat.
And he has his album out called Hey Y'all.
Hmm.
So
It
he's
sounds
a
like-
Georgia cowboy.
Sounds like you're differentiating this between somebody on a ranch and somebody who's going out
That's basically
for
what
a night
I'm
at the Grand Ole Opry and happens to be wearing cowboy boots.
But they
I'm just
also-
saying.
They also wear their cowboy hat up and down Broadway.
So fun fact, I actually never wore cowboy boots until I left Tennessee.
Yeah.
So in Tennessee, especially in Middle Tennessee, you didn't want to look like a tourist. And so all the tourists in Nashville
As opposed to
would
most
wear,
places where people like looking like tourists in their own city.
you wanted to, it's just like, I think a lot of people, especially now when you see people go to Nashville, it's like they're cosplaying a lot of different things. So in Murfreesboro and in Nashville, like growing up, you didn't wear, cowboy boots or cowboy hats unless you were like my cousins actually did like ride bulls. They had a farm, all that stuff. They would wear cowboy hats, but then it made sense. But if you weren't a part of an actual farm, you didn't want to look like a tourist. So you didn't wear cowboy boots. You didn't wear a cowboy hat, anything like that, because then people think that you're a tourist and you're not a tourist.
Yeah. My perception is in general, like if you have a big leather cowboy hat and cowboy boots, it's pretty heavy. I want to wear lighter stuff.
Yeah. Unless you're on the farm, there's no reason for it.
Yeah.
There's just no reason for it.
Right.
Well, okay. Now we got to do a quick Grim report
Well, do
because
you
we
wanna-
got off
Let's tell
subject.
people about after the Cardinal game today, after Eric Fetty takes on his former team, the Nationals, we're going to have Cards Hub 365
Yes.
right here on
Yes.
the Sports Hub STL.
There it
And
is.
so it's powered by Gray Bar. There you go. And it comes up today at 3 right here on Sports Hub STL on the YouTube page. And you will have it live right here on the YouTube page after the Cardinals and the Nationals down in Florida. You can also get the show on demand from YouTube following the live broadcast as well as on Apple, Spotify, or any other major podcast outlet. Cards Hub 365, daily Cardinals content right here on Sports Hub STL, powered by Gray Bar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs.
Bub says, are bolo ties big in Nashville too? They're huge out here in New Mexico. I put that in the more Western style category. And I see people wear them in Nashville, but I think it just depends. In Nashville, you see a lot more cowboy hats, cowboy boots, which I know is also part of the West. There's just a different look. I'll present you photos one day of like the difference between like the style and even culturally
Here's the
how
thing.
they approach things.
Bolo
Like how you
ties.
form the other part here, how you farm like in say Wyoming will be different than how you
That's
farm
fair.
in
That's
Tennessee.
very true. I will say bolo ties. I think bolo ties were immediately won. Were won 100% for the west of the Mississippi battle when a president was wearing it from Texas. When you get George W. Bush down at the ranch and he's wearing a bolo tie, kind of seals it for the west of the Mississippi battle there on who gets to call bolo ties.
Philip Rivers was not wearing a bolo tie when he was at NC State, was he?
No, he was wearing it in San Diego though for some
Florida,
weirdly
we got
weird
west of
reason.
Mississippi.
Yeah, Western Mississippi. That's true.
There you go.
Oh, see, this is what I'm saying, Brooke. I feel like there's not as big of a divide between the two as we thought. I think there's maybe a pretty large overlap.
I think Johnny Cash is a really good example of like a Tennessee kind of that country style. Like
The
he's
Man
one of
in
my one of my favorite country
But
music stars of all time. He's from Arkansas.
Did he ever wear a hat? I feel like
Johnny Cash, of course he did.
I probably wore cowboy boots
No, he
because
would
the
do
man
that.
No, he
because the
would.
man needed to
Yeah,
wear
he
some.
even had an era where he was doing kind of like that. Remember
Did
in
he
the
go
80s,
full country like
the
that?
country where it was like really shiny suits.
Did he
would
do that?
He would do
He
that
went
too.
full shiny suit. I thought he was always like black. Like
That's what
Man
he's
in
known
Black.
for. Yeah, that's what he's
Man in
most known for.
Black.
But you can look at photos, and there's photos where he's, has some of the rhinestone stuff going on too.
Yep.
Because that was big during the 80s.
Man in
and
Black
70s,
went
wasn't
rhinestone
it?
cowboy.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash.
I'm a little
Love
disturbed
Johnny
by this right
Cash.
now.
It's
Okay.
the orange blossoms.
So getting back on subject for the Grim Report, sticking with Cardinals, I've seen a lot of people talk about this, especially on Cardinals Reddit. Yes, I'm on there. Cardinals ballpark passes going up in price. Budweiser ballpark passes are now $49.99 a month. They went up from $39.99 a month last year. So what do you guys think about the prices going up when we're talking about this soft reset, as Ken Rosenthal said, youth movement, transition, as John Mozeliak says? Are you surprised that the prices went up this year?
I am, because I believe that the ballpark pass is developed for people that are on a more defined income that just want to enjoy Cardinal baseball.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many they sell a year, but let's presume they sell 5,000 of them. Okay. Is that $50,000 really going to move the needle for the Cardinals? I don't think so. I think there were other ways to generate more revenue than by raising the price of a ticket for people that are on limited or defined income, but still want to utilize the ballpark. And here's another thing. People are still, Brooke, if they're spending $39.99, they're coming. I think this will cause people to not buy the ballpark pass, the extra $10.
And a lot of people use that ballpark pass.
And do it. And they do so with also buying concessions, going up to the Bud Terrace or going to areas around the ballpark and still having a cold beer. All it takes is 2 games for somebody to buy a beer each game for you to make up that $10.
Yeah. Why do you, I on the Cardinals side, from a business standpoint, why are they doing that? Just because, I don't know. Like, what is it specifically?
They must have determined that they can make more money with, obviously, this is what it all comes back to. Their algorithms, their analytics people have determined that they'll make a few more bucks from selling it for $49.99 than $39.99. I just don't know. And you hit the nail on the head right off the bat. When you are in transition mode, I think you want to keep people on your side.
I think so.
Is it worth the extra $10 per ballpark pass to piss people off?
No, I don't think it is whatsoever. It kind of looks like you're pinching pennies. Joe says $35 in 2022 and now $50 for a way worse team. That's a 43% increase.
Yeah. And, you know, I don't have a ballpark pass, but I do understand the people that have them, why they have them and why they aren't coming and, you know, even buying 4 tickets on StubHub for $10 a piece. That's $40 right there. They want to consume baseball in a different way. And I think that, I think it's just a misstep by the Cardinals in the big scheme of things. For, you know, Brooke, I can spend $10 on lottery tickets today, and I'm not gonna win. But it's a $10 loss. So in the big scheme of things, $10 shouldn't be that big of a deal. But it's the idea of it, right? For me, this is more than just the execution of it. It's the idea that, okay, we put this program in place for people that generally can't afford to buy our tickets, and now we're raising the price, and we've raised it. What's okay, math people? I know there's math people listening and that can text in or use the YouTube chat. Oh no, I can figure it out. It's gone up 30% in 2 years, right? 30. Thank you. Hey, Randy just did good math. 30% in 2 years, or in 3 years. Was it 2022? What?
He said from 2022.
Yeah, 2022.
Yes.
So, but 35. So it would have cost $60 for 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's for 100. So 43? Is that?
Don't ask me any questions about math, because
okay.
it just,
I want to get this right.
I am not.
Okay,
I am not.
so-
give us the numbers again.
So it's a 30% increase, right?
Say the numbers again. I have a
So
calculator out
it
now.
was,
From last year?
it was $35 for
Last year, yes.
Now it's $50. So take it out of 100, right? So the 100% now is $50. So
Yeah, 30% increase.
what?
Yeah, 30% increase. I think is what you said.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
The math works out.
So much for that bad.
And if it
report
doesn't,
card
who
that you
cares?
had in
Yeah.
math.
That's really bad.
I'm just
It's really bad.
the reason we're in these careers right now is because we're really bad at
Really
math.
bad at
It's
math.
it's not the thing that we're great at.
Okay.
I think another thing that I want to touch on too is because, you know, we're always talking about growing the game. What is the best way to grow the game is to take your children there, to
Mhm.
create that next generation of Cardinals fans. For families, I can imagine how much harder that is with tickets going up in price. Because if you're talking to your kids about they want to see Mason win, you know that just like young kids love seeing Mason Wynn play.
Yeah.
And then you can also see some of these other young players, but it gets more expensive. That's the issue, is that doesn't help when you're trying to bring in a new generation of players and, also a new generation of fans and engaging with them if ticket prices are going up.
Rip It Up Card says, I bought the ballpark pass for the last 3 years. My wife and I go to any game, and we do, but we go to a Jersey bobblehead night, sell it, and it pays for the month. Sad it's going up so much, but you know what? If you're paying for it by getting the bobblehead, then it works out well for you, because again, the $10 isn't going to be that much of a difference, right? If you're selling bobbleheads and everything that basically is on their list of promotions.
I've seen that the Orioles and the Diamondbacks actually reduce their concession prices too. Did you see the Birdland value menu that they've created? Yeah, they talked about that going into this season. The Orioles announced the Birdland value menu, which offers discounted food and drink options. I feel like that would be a great thing for the Cardinals to do.
I think it'd be brilliant. Now, I don't know. I know that Delaware North plays a huge role in pricing of Cardinal concessions. They've got a contract. I don't know how ironclad the contract is and whether or not Delaware North gets to determine the price of concessions, but they do play a role. And Delaware North is in business because they're paying the Cardinals, where they have to charge X amount so that they make money on the deal too. Mm-hmm. So if the Cardinals were in complete control of the concessions, I think it'd be a good move. I think now with the contract that they have with outsourcing their concessions, I don't know that they could do it. But we do know, as Brooke said, that there are teams that have reduced concession prices. And we've mentioned it here on this show that the Atlanta Falcons make more money from concessions than anybody else in sports, with the lowest concession prices in sports.
Well, when you go to a game, you have to get nachos or a hot dog.
I think so.
And you have to get a soft drink or a beer.
Or a Shack Big Chicken sandwich.
That's a splurge for sure. Okay. I don't know if that's a every single game thing. That's maybe once a season, because I think it's how much is it? Was it almost $30 for a chicken sandwich? If you do the very high quality one, which it's delicious, by the way, the donut and the chicken. Oh, it's so good.
Great question here. Best concession value at Busch Stadium. Because if you get the tachos, they're nachos made out of tots.
Those are big and they're filling.
They're big. Yeah. They should normally, maybe not me, but they should feed 3 people.
You're saying you eat all that to yourself? Yeah. You eat the whole thing to yourself?
Are the stands still around the park that do full the fully loaded hot dog stand that used to be over by the parking garage? Yeah. Is it still there?
Oh yeah.
That will always be the best. That will always be the smartest move. Before you go in, stop off, get a bag of chips, a fully loaded hot dog with a bunch of onions and some good stuff like that, and you can just take that right in.
Did you know a couple of years ago that place, those people got robbed at gunpoint in broad daylight?
What?
The people that are saying, "Hey,
if this was
water here,"
if this was a proper
venue,
baseball town, I'll say that right now, it would have been crowded enough down that those people would have gotten mob beaten.
Yeah.
As soon as they did that. And the fact that they didn't disappoints me so sad.
Where people weren't paying attention, because they're out there at the beginning, so they're probably making a lot of money at the very beginning as people are going into the gates. And I'm sure somebody probably waited until people are in the ballpark and the game has started to do that, as they were trying to shut things down. Yeah. I could see that happening. That's sad. Well, that's the Grim Report for you.
Oh, that was
ballpark passes going up.
Yeah. So we want you to buy ballpark passes, and think of it this way:
course.
The extra $10 in the big scheme of things, I think it's more the point than the $10, right?
It's just the idea. Somebody put in the chat, reading the room. The Cardinals just need to read the room.
Yeah. If your baseball people are going to use the word reset or even use the word transition, and your business people are saying, yeah, but we're going to raise the price $10, it just is not a great.
This is not.
Look, his optics aren't great.
Jason Gordon hitting you with the comparison you don't want to be hit with right now in sports.
The Dallas Mavs.
Ooh, do you think that I've seen videos of Mavs fans just absolutely hating this new ownership?
There are full-on think pieces from Mavericks websites and Dallas websites where people were talking about that they're legitimately worried that there's going to be a large abdication of fans, because they are so outright angry about everything that happened. And everything that has happened since the initial trade with Anthony Davis getting hurt, Daniel Gafford getting hurt, Kyrie Irving getting hurt, all this stuff that's come out, Nico Harrison showing up to the game in a bright blue suit and seeming to taunt Mavericks fans with how out in front he was, despite the fact that they all hate him. People are very angry right now in Dallas.
So Michelle Smallman brought this up on Unsportsmanlike on ESPN Radio, and I agree with her 100%. The Adelson family from Las Vegas, they're the new owners. The late Sheldon Adelson's wife, who, by the way, goes into NBA owners meetings with Stan Kroenke. How different is what the Mavericks are doing than what the Rams did here?
So you're suggesting that they are going to make that move.
That they want to move the team to Vegas, and they're dismantling the team, and they're going to blame the fans who don't show up at the games, and they're going to say, well, we've got good reason to move. That we're spending a lot of money, and they have spent a lot of money, but the team's not winning, and it's their fault, not ours. We have to move to Vegas.
That's what it seems like. I guess my biggest question is, why would the NBA want to get out of one of the biggest markets in the country? Because Dallas-Fort Worth is like, what, top 5 market?
I don't think it's necessarily the league. I think it's the owner.
It's not, but here's why. I think there's something to that, but it's not exactly right, which is, one, the NBA isn't going to leave Dallas.
That's
2,
a huge
the NBA
market.
is already going to Las Vegas. We haven't seen it in a long time, but franchise switch.
There you go.
Whoever a team comes in, the Adelsons agree to pay the expansion fee for the Vegas team, and then a new ownership group comes in and takes over the ownership of the Dallas Mavericks. I think that is the best case scenario for the NBA because you can't leave Dallas. It's the best scenario for Dallas fans, who are a great group of fans when the team's actually being supported, because Cuban showed you what you can do with that fan base when you support them and you're outward in that support and you put money into those kind of things. And it also works for the Adelsons because then they get out of there and they get Vegas money. There are some people who have thrown out the fact that like they sold all their Vegas money and all their casino money is now foreign casino money. And so maybe they don't want to
still live there.
They still live there. Maybe they don't want to jump back into the Vegas side as much as people think. I still think it could be live, that because a franchise will be there in the NBA, they take over that one and somebody takes over Dallas.
And oh, by the way, and I know we got to roll here, but do you guys think that Mark Cuban has to be beside himself with the way this franchise is being treated by the new ownership?
Oh, 100%. He put so much, with what you were talking about, Rockio, he put so much time and energy and really building up things there with the Dallas Mavericks. I can imagine that bothers him, but also he has a lot of money.
Yeah, but I thought when he sold the team to them, he was still going to be in charge.
I was kind of confused about what was happening.
Yeah,
it doesn't seem like that's happening.
It doesn't seem like it at all. Hey, make sure that you've subscribed to our YouTube page and like this video. And if you haven't already, go to sportshubstl.com and sign up for the Hub newsletter. Sent to your inbox twice a week and anytime St. Louis sports news breaks. You'll be the first to know about Sports Hub STL events and merchandise. Get exclusive content and prize opportunities and more. And while you're on the site, check out all the St. Louis sports content, including game recaps, programming highlights, sports news and opinion, gambling tips, and more. It's all on the website at sportshubstl.com.
So now we have a MEGAMIND mini games, correct?
Let's do it.
I'm down to do it if you guys are ready to do it. So
we're ready here. Let me
let's do it.
I saw that last. We had somebody that wanted to check in and talk about why I was saying that Brendan Donovan needs to be out in the field. I think the Cardinals do want to see more of him in his rookie year. 468 plate appearances, 371. Then he did have 652 last year, but they want to see him do it back-to-back years. And I have no problem with the Cardinals wanting to have their guys be durable year after year after year, because that's how you prove yourself to be a really reliable player.
Paco Greenwell is a Star Wars name. Not actually, but I'm saying like it sounds like it would be a really good Star Wars name. Paco Greenwell. Paco Greenwell is an incredible name in the chat. I just wanted to get that out there. I'm so glad you read that. All right, Randy, we have a MEGAMIND mini game. Okay. It's up on the screen now. We call this version of the game Eagle Eye. I accidentally made it transparent at the top. My apologies.
How many mistakes are there? Like the 1990 World Series was the Reds and the A's, not 1989. 89 was the Giants and the A's. The 89 was the Earthquake World Series.
So Randy Karraker, before I explain to all the listeners what we're doing here, Randy Karraker has jumped ahead, and you're so there are two lists.
And 90 is wrong too.
There's 5 things, or excuse me, there's 2 lists. There's 5 things listed. There are 2 mistakes. I did kind of cheat on this one because I switched 2 of the things, and I'm saying that right now because you already had that. That's one of the mistakes. So
93
combined.
Blue Jays and Phillies.
So there are
Jays and the Mets.
2 lists of 5. The one list on the left is the 5 World Series preceding the lockout, and the other list on the other 5 is the St. Louis Blues top 5 career 5 points leaders.
Okay.
So on the left, Randy Karraker, you have already gone through the mistakes that we made there, which is I switched the 1989 and 1990 World Series. The Athletics and Giants played in 1989. Obviously, the Bay Area, very famous for everything that happens with the earthquake. The Reds and the Athletics were the matchup in 1990. I flipped those 2, and then you got the other big mistake, which was the Toronto Blue Jays did not beat the New York Mets for their second World Series in 1993. Do you know what? Did you already say which team it was?
Philadelphia. That was a fun team.
It was Philadelphia Phillies. Very good. Now on the right side.
Want a fun fact?
Yes, sir. Give it to me. That's why we do this.
That Philadelphia team that lost to Toronto in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
That was the team that made Chaim Bloom fall in love with baseball. He
Really?
grew up in Philly in the 93 Phillies with Dykstra and Dave Hollins and Dalton and Kurt Schilling. Yeah, that was it. Okay, so next column here.
St. Louis Blues top 5 career points leaders. There are just 2 mistakes with the names
Rich
here.
Sutter certainly did not have 636 points with the Blues.
No, he did not. Do you know what that answer should be? Number
Brian,
3,
right?
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct there. And
Okay.
there is one more mistake here on the screen, sir, in that list for the Blues.
Okay, Gary Younger, I don't think Gary Younger is 4th all time in Blues scoring. But let me check here. Steiner 553.
You blitzed through that baseball one so fast.
I know that was super quick.
I put it up and he immediately goes, "Well, this is wrong."
So Bernie is correct at 1,073.
I will give you that. Yes.
Hully, these are points with the Blues.
Yes, Blues career points leaders.
Did Hully get to? Hully didn't score 936 points with the Blues, did he? Because let's see, he's got 400 and something goals. He didn't have 500 assists with the Blues. So I'm gonna go with that. Matthew, did Hully get to 936 points with the Blues?
He did get to 936 points with the Blues.
Okay,
yes,
Richie is definitely
he's number
wrong.
2.
Okay. Then I will go with, we're leaving somebody out here from points.
Chat hasn't even gotten this one yet either.
Huh?
I'm not going to put it up if Chat does get it,
Yeah.
but I'm interested to see if Chat is able to beat you to any of these without using the internet, you cheaters.
I'm going to say that Gary Younger is not 4th all time in Blues scoring.
Already on the internet.
Randy, I know you are, but still, no, using more of the internet, you cheaters. Randy, I am sorry. Gary Younger is the 4th all time in Blues scoring with 575. The actual incorrect part is that 5th name there. It's not Alexander Steen, who's the 5th leading scorer in Blues history. It is one of Alexander Steen's teammates, though. Here are all the mistakes. Vladimir Tarasenko is 5th on the Blues all-time scoring list. Brian Sutter, not the right, I put the wrong Sutter brother in there with 636. He is the 3rd leading scorer in Blues history. And then you blitzed right through the baseball one. I flipped the 89 and the 91s. 91, I guess 89 is a pretty big one that's like stuck in everyone's brain that you remember that one as the Bay Area series, the earthquake and everything in 89. And then, of course, the Philadelphia Phillies are the team that lost to the Toronto Blue Jays in their second of 2 World Series wins in 1993. So 3 out of 4 there, Randy, and you blitzed through the baseball one there. I got to make baseball harder, I guess. Nicely done, Brooke Grimsley.
I feel like I miss your sounder, your little soundboard that you have.
Oh, yeah, sometimes. I miss that too.
And so I was like, what is something? And I double checked just to make sure that we don't violate any rules on YouTube, that I could use it. It said free to use.
Plug the soundboard in.
Huh?
We might be able to plug that soundboard in. Okay. Is that your soundboard?
No, it was mine.
Oh,
but I could steal it.
Okay, well then, yeah, let's do that then.
Back at the radio station.
Let's do that then.
You could have just taken that and not said anything.
Nobody would have ever.
One thing I do want to touch on.
Like, I'm not kidding. You probably could have just taken it and they would have known.
I guess we can call this our overarching item, but we didn't get to talk about the Blues win or the Mizzou loss in the opening segment. I feel like we kind of need to talk about that kind of ships passing in the night there. As one of our very first shows, we talked to Kareem Rush after that huge Bama win, and unfortunately, Mizzou's kind of just let things slip away since then.
Stat for you. First 25 games, Mizzou allowed 90 points once. Last 5 games, they've allowed 90 points 4 times.
Weird.
The defense has disintegrated for Mizzou. Blues, coming into last night's game, LA had the best home record in hockey, 19-3-3. Now they're 19-4-3, and the Blues play at Anaheim tomorrow night. Anaheim got hot for a while, should be beatable for the Blues now, and then the Blues are back at LA at 7:00 on Saturday night.
Trade deadline's on Friday.
Trade deadline is tomorrow, 2:00 St. Louis time. By the way, the Kings, while the Blues play tomorrow night in Anaheim, the Kings are off until Saturday night. So it'll be another situation like Sunday, where the Blues were playing their 3rd and 4 nights, and the Stars were rested. Now it's going to be the Kings that are rested for the Blues and lying in wait after the Blues beat them last night in a shootout, 3-2.
Robert Thomas, Tommy. 11-point streak going on for him. That top line has really showed up after 4 Nations. I think that break really helped them, especially physically.
Yep.
And they're showing up a lot. So if you're Doug Armstrong right now, and we just mentioned the trade deadline is tomorrow. So if there is any moves that are made with the Blues, we will have instant reaction to that. And then also on Sunday, we have the Blues Hub Weekly Show with Jamal Mayers, and he will weigh in on what the Blues are doing, if they do make any moves, if they just decide to stand pat. At this point, I feel like they're not going to trade away any of these guys.
I think they'll stand pat. I would be shocked if the Blues would make a move tomorrow.
Yeah, they're just 1 point out
of
a spot.
Yep, and they don't want to give up assets. They don't want to buy.
No.
And because they gave up assets to get Broberg and Holloway, and they also, I don't remember who they got traded the number 4 for, but they don't have a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th pick in this year's draft.
What a steal the offer sheet boys are with Broberg and Holloway.
Yeah,
Holloway just reached with his 20th goal, career high for him, by the way.
Yeah.
And Jamal said this, and I have this on social media too. If you go to our Instagram reels and also on TikTok, but Jamal said this best is that he just needed that opportunity. Dylan Holloway needed that runway. Look, we're going to transfer it over to the Blues. Ding! That runway to get that opportunity. Now 20 goals on the season for Holloway. Broberg, I know that he had an injury for a little bit, but the way he's come back too, he's a huge asset for this team.
No doubt about it. You've got a guy that's capable of being a top 3 forward. He can be a top line forward, and you've got a guy that's definitely a top pairing defenseman. And the Blues will have to give them contracts. That's fine. You gave up a 2nd rounder and a 3rd rounder for 2 guys that were top 10 picks in the draft, and you're getting them this year for $4 and $2 million, or $4 and 2.8, something like that. So pretty good. We're listening to stuff. Hockey Dad Don. Love Hockey Dad Don right now, because he said, when I go to a Falcons game, I like to get the Michael Vick hot dog. Hot dog, yeah.
Randy, are you secretly Hockey Don Dad? Because that's Dad Don, because that's something that you would say. That's a Randy joke written all over
I get
it.
groans from Matthew and Brooke. I got to tell you guys, I don't have a dog in this fight.
Oh, nope. Can't say that. Can't say that whatsoever. I was about to say something else too, that it sounds bad, but I feel like they were harsher on Michael Vick than they are with some of the players who have, committed worse crimes in a lot of ways.
What's the worst crime than
domestic violence is a big one. There's a lot of domestic violence that happens in the NFL, and somehow.
Brooke, you were showing me stuff right before our show. Don't you think that the general public is more outraged by violence against dogs than violence against people?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we are.
Yeah. And it's not great what he did, but he has put in a lot of work to put that behind him.
Yeah. And I always, when I go to a Falcons game, I always like to get that Ron Mexico burrito. Did you guys know that his fake name was Ron Mexico?
Yeah, I think you're leaving a very strict part of or a very important part of
We're
that.
on the internet. You can tell us what it is.
Like, wasn't he saying his name was Ron Mexico so that women couldn't come back around after he gave them something?
Yeah, but the other part of it was
that's a very crucial part of him giving a fake name, is that it was so that they couldn't catch him after that.
It happened. You were not allowed. the NFL.com after that, NFL shop would not allow you to get a customized Mexico 7 jersey, Falcons jersey.
But I tell you this right now, that man changed Call of Duty lobbies and YouTube chat comments and Pro Football Talk comments for the that story, because for the rest of my life, Randy, the rest of my life, I have seen it now, and I will see it till the day I die. I will log on to play an online game, and there is a 30% chance that somebody at some point is going to come. I'm going to come across Ron Mexico 77458 at some point while I'm playing Call of Duty, or I'm playing Helldivers, or I'm out here on college football. I will run into a Ron Mexico 1435 /5. I will run into them all the time, and God bless Michael Vick for that, not for the crime part.
Now let me make a point here. Be serious for a moment.
Yes.
With the help and guidance of two people, of Roger Goodell and Aeneas Williams, Michael Vick has turned his life around.
He has.
He has recognized the errors of his ways. He has matured, and he is. And I know he's doing the TV show on Fox. So he's on their pregame show. But credit to him for accepting the guidance from at least one really, really high quality person, as high quality a person as you'll ever meet, and then understanding that whether it's a political move or not, that Roger Goodell can help him out. But I did an event a few years ago that Aeneas invited me to at his church, where he interviewed Michael Vick. And he was like a different person.
Yeah, completely changed.
Yeah.
And that's what people do deserve second chance. It's not great whatsoever what he did, but people, if they can showcase that they have learned from those mistakes and continue to help other people grow, then that's what it's all about, right?
Yep. Stephen Carter, while you guys groaned, he gets on the chat and says, Randy, LOL. So I appreciate
No, that was
Steven,
a Randy.
Stephen, I appreciate you.
Yes. We appreciate that joke.
So thank you. So tomorrow on the show, it's trade deadline day. We're going to have somebody on. Did you already get somebody to talk trade deadline with us, Matthew? I know we were working on that.
No, I think we're going to text Jamal.
We're good? Oh, okay.
No.
we were going to get an expert. So not that Jamal is not an expert, but we're good. So we
decided on an expert. I simply haven't texted him yet.
That's fine.
We've been doing the show.
So, and if we don't get the expert, then we'll get our our local expert at Sports Hub STL, Jamal Mayers, who does the Sunday night, Sunday Blues weekly show with Brooke here on Sports Hub STL, 7:00 every Sunday.
7:30-ish. It might be different because Sunday's game is at 7. So we're either going to do it before or after the Blues game.
They play it on Saturday.
Oh, is that Saturday? You're right. We might do it earlier still on Sunday. There was somebody who told me that we're doing it earlier on Sunday.
Okay.
Behind the scenes.
So there you go. And tomorrow we'll review today's Cardinal game. And don't forget, we have Cards Hub 365 coming up after the Cards and the Nationals today here on Sports Hub STL. Anything else that you two would like to add in here before we
I think that's it.
depart for the day?
I'm going to go on a walk outside.
Tell your friends about us being on YouTube and on Sports Hub STL because we want to talk to them too. And we appreciate that you are here joining us. You can re-listen to the show anytime and check out all of the great content and programming here at Sports Hub STL. Have a thrilling Thursday until tomorrow. Take care, everybody.